Going to be super important here to track who can keep a level head in a game that means so much. As the analyst desk was mentioning, just going second place means you have the chance of facing against Damwon, which no one wants what you see on the other side.
By the way, I love that we mentioned no other team but Damwon. It's not like, ooh, you got to play against Clutch. Oh, you got to play against Split. It's literally Damwon. Damwon is the nightmare scenario for both these lineups. But the Pantheon will be banned. The Tristana banned away as well. Makes sense when you've seen the successful flexes coming in from Artifact, and the Renekton, LeBlanc, and Gragas will follow. So a lot of individual comfort picks as well as meta power picks taken off the board.
Interesting to see the Gragas banned away by Low-Key Esports, knowing that DNK loves that champion, whether it's with the Predator or more usually the Dark Harvest for him, but will be removed from the game this time around. Now, seeing a Morgana ban come through, Qiyana has been left open. I think this champ is so strong on the current patch. Even with a small nerf, it is still super, super good. But as Low-Key have shown time and time again throughout this tournament, they still value the Akali so heavily. And we've seen why. Artifact in these mid to late game situations can be so brutal. He can be so good on this champion.
And realistically, I think this makes a ton of sense. I don't think teams value individual comfort enough in high pressure scenarios, and it's very clear that Low-Key do, and it's something that I respect. The downside is, by prioritizing the Akali, you're giving over a champion that in general, I think is perceived to be more powerful in the Rakan. Potentially could have given up to Xayah as well, but it looks like Hong Kong Attitude might shift their draft a little bit and allow for the potential flex pick of the Syndra. All right, I think, let's go with Xayah. All right.
Xayah-Rakan's a pretty good combo, Dracos, but we'll have to wait and see what they do go for now. I think it is important to put Unified and Kaiwing on some comfort and on some playmakers in this bottom lane, because when I look at Hong Kong Attitude as a team, this is a team that loves to fight you all the time. So equipping yourself with the engage of Rakan and the team fight output of a Xayah is very, very powerful.
And now a Caitlyn has been locked in, a champion that, well, we just haven't seen in a long time, to be honest. Her ability to be a lane bully often feels much less viable in pro play than it might feel in solo queue. But backed up by an Elise, maybe we just see an incredibly oppressive bot side set of control for Low-Key.
It is interesting, though, because usually when you see Caitlyn picked against the Xayah-Rakan, you throw Morgana right next to it. But of course, with a Morgana ban coming through from HKA, it removes that option. Now, there are still plenty of counter picks for this Rakan or matchups people like to take into it. There's more than two, which is the important thing, because you can't get banned out, because you have the Nautilus, you have the Thresh, you have the Leona as well. All good options with CC to layer down with traps with the Caitlyn. It's less about just hard pushing that lane, though, and more about some of the all-in power that accompanies it.
And the nice thing is, even if supports are banned away here, Caitlyn can do a decent job of protecting herself against the Rakan. Standing on a trap limits a lot of his ability to make plays, as well as the 90 caliber net to take her out to safety. So the Thresh ban might be a bit frustrating for the likes of Venus, who had a pretty solid game on it this tournament, but will not be the biggest concern. Syndra now taken away. They saw the hover earlier, do not want to give it over.
I wonder if Hong Kong Attitude have the same lead on this game as we do, or you think it's going to be a little bit more dependent on the scaling of these picks. In that case, I could see Mission going back to a personal favorite of his as the Corki. Pretty good matchup into the Akali, can build some defensive tools in that matchup, and eventually will just outscale in terms of the range you offer in team fights and that constant, reliable DPS. Could be a very strong backliner right next to that Xayah if you want to ensure that late game scaling.
Do we see even more creativity? Something like a Twisted Fate coming out. We've seen in the LEC, at least domestically, be a very strong answer. But the Galio actually going to be taken away. This is one of the few groups where it feels like the Galio mid pick has been quite consistently popular outside of the few times that Saros played it. Now banning, you got to be careful here, HK. You got to decide exactly what you want to bring to the table. Lysandra would be interesting.
Well, Lysandra, I mean, that's looking for more early fighting, right? And the lockdown CC against the Akali maybe trying to force something like a cleanse out of that type of a pick. But Lysandra's pick we've seen now just a little bit. Still hasn't received like monster buffs on these last few patches that would make it suddenly appear in professional play. But this is a pick for a long time people liked taking up against the Akali because of things like the Aftershock in the mid lane. When you get all in, you can reliably proc that and stay alive, as well as the ability just to lock down single targets in fights.
Oh, interesting. Lux, most likely going into the hands of Venus on the bottom side of the map. Now, Lux was incredibly powerful in Meta's past, usually with the Aftershock, and can very easily deny the mostly telegraphed engage from Rakan in the early to mid game.
And because they have Elise alongside it, you have very strong presence in the early game for your jungler. So you can put DNK around that bottom lane and basically guarantee that you are allowed to push up. Eliminate a lot of the threat of Crash being able to look for an early game gank and play for the plates. That's what you go for when you have a Lux support and a Caitlyn as an AD carry. It's all about chipping away at those plates and playing for heavy pressure and snowballing the game.
And now Camille locked in. Hong Kong Attitude debating their options here on the final pick. Looks like... Okay, yeah, I do, audience. I thought we might see the swip swap, but it's not going to happen. It will be the Gangplank in the end. And this is interesting, Ender, because now, once again, we see so much explosive pick potential on one side. You got the Elise, the Camille, the Lux, Caitlyn traps to follow up as well, and Akali, of course, is just lethal in her own right. But on the opposite side, you have a GPL, you have a Lissandra, and you have the unstoppable damage source in the late game that is Azaya.
I think it's very clear what Hong Kong Attitude are trying to do in this game. Get to level 6 and then make a play around this bottom lane. If you know Celebrity and Venus are pushing, bring the global presence of a Gangplank ult, bring Elise in and Mission to rotate down. That's a very strong mid lane 2 versus 2 to get pressure, and then try to punish this pushing bottom lane. If you can split the map against something like a Caitlyn and a Lux, they're going to be very, very unhappy.
It's true. And honestly, if you had to do it against any pick against Loki Esports, I feel like it might be Venus's Lux. 5-1 on the pick domestically. Huge comfort pick for him. And honestly, like a champion that, in our experience playing bot lane, can do one of two things. It can sit there, it can be the snare bot in mid to late game, or if it gets ahead, can just dominate. And you guys can't see the summoner spells on screen right now. We can before we get into Pigsman. That's an Ignite. Lux is here to kill people.
Oh yeah.
Lux is here to smack people down in trades. And if you are unified and Kaiwing, you need to be very careful about how you pick your fights. But luckily, Crash is there to back you up in the Lee Sin.
Yeah, this is going to be a really interesting game right here because you can split the map nice and tidily, because when you have an Elise and a Camille up against a Gangplank, you think early pressure, shut down 3Z, make him have a rough time, and then you can just unlock Hani to run around the map and start getting kills. It comes down to this for these two teams, first or second seed going into the knockout stage. We're getting onto the Rift.
Before this game, both these lineups got to breathe a sigh of relief as Mega was no longer in contention. They both knew that they would leave the stage, but as you said, Ender, now fighting for first seed. Crucial. Not quite do or die, but as we continue to mention, with Danwon in the potential running for teams you'd have to play as a second seed, it does feel a little bit like do or die. An early game, we talked about Elise Lee Sin in the past. I do want to get your thoughts on this Lissandra. We have the cleanse coming out for Artifact in the mid lane. How do you feel about this matchup? Because to me, I've seen Lissandra nerfed so many times, it's hard to imagine picking her, but it still seems like so many teams are confident to do so.
At the same time, we've seen some recent Akali nerfs as well. And a lot of, when we saw this matchup being played so much, actually at the tail end of last summer split going into Worlds, you would see this matchup where Lissandra wins mid lane, early levels, you have the range, you have the push, you go up 10, 15 CS, and then at level 6, Artifact just kills you. Akali has lost so much damage on her ultimate now that I don't think that's a realistic possibility. Artifact's also going to be running the cleanse in this matchup, so it's going to be a little bit more stable for the side of Mission. I think he will have the upper hand.
But then the difference maker, of course, can be DNK in the jungle. The additional burst to come in from an Elise potentially. Obviously, Lissandra's going to have a lot of safety, but doesn't have a cleanse of her own to deal with an Elise cocoon. So has to be very careful about how Mission's going to spend his time as we see the junglers leashing on the bottom side, but no leash for Crash on the top.
Yeah, so there's a lot of moving pieces for low-key and their plan going into the early game here. Specifically, we look at, let's start in the bottom lane, right? You have heavy pushing bottom lane, teleport on Celebrity. You want to be able to apply pressure. And ultimately, this bottom lane is going to be vulnerable. But because they're pushing, they can't actually get ganks, really. It's going to be difficult for them. They're letting the wave come into them now because DNK is going to be moving away. But eventually, you hope that a Lux Caitlyn can 2v3 this lane, or just put the lane in position with the poke that Unified and Kaiwing can't actually force a fight. At the same time, in mid lane, Artifact just going to be scaling up. You've got the cleanse, so you're not looking for a whole lot of fights. But that's where low-key want to go up top side. DNK plus Hani do have the ability to influence this match. Maybe look for dives, look for ganks, burn a flash off of 3Z, make him very, very uncomfortable, while the rest of your map is getting is playing safe in mid lane, as I mentioned, and also pushing down bottom lane.
And I feel like this Camille pick for Hani has been a nice resurgence for him. As we saw in the first day, the Gangplank pick's really not working out for him. The Camille able to have a lot of impact in the first game. Okay, we're playing today. But inevitably, keeping our eyes on the Elise as she does move topside as predicted. And there's still just a level 2 for the Camille GP. Obviously with some oranges to get out if he wants. Has started parlaying a barrel though, so will not get it until level 3. But they're not going to try to capitalize on that window and force a gank.
There's also a smart ward and Tribrush to see if a dive was going to happen. Now, DNK around the mid lane. Hard gank to make work, though.
Yeah, creep wave's right there. If the creep wave's 10 seconds later, maybe you can force something, but it just does not work.
So this is where I wonder, does DNK want to play for that bot lane scuttle crab? Because he knows Crash is pathing. He saw that the Raptor camp was taken down, and 3 minutes, 15 seconds is when the crab is going to be spawning. He does have some pressure in mid lane, but doesn't in bottom lane. So I don't actually think he can stick around here, because you can see already Kaiwing on the move can be able to team up with Crash and force DNK away.
Kick does connect. Cocoon follow-up. DNK will get knocked up. Can go up, but is going to be forced to come down. Luckily, Scryer's Bloom right there, so well played, but is going to have to give up. Too low on health now to try to contest this, so good play overall from HKA.
And now Crash has the opportunity to walk in and take the low-key Raptors, I think, if he wants to make a move, because he had a ward that saw DNK pathing up topside. He knows the play is going to be onto that crab. So I know he doesn't have push in mid lane, but this is a point where I think you can take that calculated risk. Go take the enemy Raptor camp and get yourself a little bit of lead. Leave a small Raptor there so that it doesn't actually respawn at a higher level for more value for DNK. But now, because he hasn't taken anything, DNK has the opportunity to make a play happen. And with more ranged minions in the top lane, it's going to push out for 3Z and put him vulnerable.
Shot has connected. Hani definitely taking the bad end of that trade, though. GP coming out on top, has additionally the Biscuits, too. So Battle of the Biscuit sustain versus the Fleet Footwork.
How long does DNK want to stay? Because I think on the next wave it will push out, but 3Z might not actually stick around for that one. So they make the call not to have the play happen, and that means Hani's going to turn this around and try to fully push out that minion wave. There's a lot of deep vision on the top side of the map, so he can feel comfortable making that push up even without a jungler.
Yeah, and I feel like you have to be painfully aware that if you stay too long, Lee Sin will eventually invade and take your Raptors. Will realize that you're somewhere along the top side of the map. The good news is he has laid down a bit of vision, which will allow them to track Crash. Crash, though, love this from him. Perfectly times the back with the respawn of his own Raptors. It's really optimizing the efficiency here. Does immediately get spotted, however, so we'll give Elise access onto the bottom side of the map if they want to play for anything onto the Zyre Rakan. Normally the lane we assume to be the aggressive one, but this is very poorly timed aggression. If Venus manages to land a snare on the back side of this, could turn. Kaiwing backing up, but has no mana. Unified, they're just trying to force the wave out, but DNK is on the way in. Cocoon does not connect, however, and Celebrity and Venus actually just too low to sustain a fight there.
Hong Kong Attitude have to be so happy with how this game is being played so far. You know, 3Z going actually up in CS. I know there's a big wave for Hani to cash in on, but also bottom lane, who without any pressure really from DNK has not been allowed to walk forward and hit the tower. 5.5 minutes in, and no plates have been taken on that bottom side of the map.
Shield comes out. Looks like we're seeing the back coming from the Caitlyn, and this is where we might start to see things shift, because the lethal tempo for Xayah does mean she can sustain wave pressure a lot more, and additionally the TP from Caitlyn means she can come back with a BF sword and now really start to poke the enemy out.
The Guardian giving the shield over to Unified to make sure that he can go ahead and get back to base. Now Celebrity will be trying to push out this lane, but with another minion wave coming, this is a situation where I thought maybe with the TP you have enough time to free hit onto that tower, but the second wave snuck on in here, and now I don't think he's actually going to have that opportunity, because he doesn't know where the enemy jungler is, and that bot lane from HKA is going to be getting back pretty quick.
Question is, can he actually try to set up a freeze here? No, it looks like he will at least get a few autos off, deny 1 or 2 creeps with the cannon there, shouldn't get too much. And does still have to pay respect to the Rakan.
He gets it.
So good to have the plate. Once again, won't get that gold for a while, but a small advantage to the side of Celebrity.
And the reason why he can step up there, you actually see both mid lane and jungle from low-key esports making that move, not fully committing towards the bottom side of the map, but saying, we can get here quickly if you need us, and at least you have the flash to back away and in case there was going to be a play down there. So now with a little bit more pressure, they can step forward and hit the towers, but it's going to have to be sustained pressure, I think, because even with just the BF sword, I don't think Loki are strong enough to turn around a gank. I think that's where Morgana is going to give you a lot more value than the Lux, because you can absorb that initial CC, and while Lux does more damage than Morgana and can, you know, scale up and be pretty oppressive in the later stages of the game, I don't think it's as powerful when defending against a jungle gank.
It's also just very hard to push a wave out as Caitlyn when Xayah is there trying to match you. You have the range advantage for the trades, but she just has so much more wave clears with the clean cut passive, the ability to hit through the creep wave, as well as the additional attack from the lethal tempo. But you can see Celebrity pulling at least a small bit ahead of his respective opponents, and that is the additional turret play. It might start to shift, though, as Mission looks to grab one of his own. And so far, so good for the Lissandra in the early game. Has gone back, has gotten the last chapter. Artifact might try to look to change that, and while Mission can't necessarily play the aggressor here in this lane, can definitely continue to just push this out over and over again.
And it's been an interesting couple of years for Mission too, because this has been a guy that's been around the LMS for quite a while now, and he actually qualified for Worlds with HKA back in 2017. But in 2018, he was traded away. They brought in Chawi, another, legendary mid laner in the region that a lot of people will recognize from international events, but Hong Kong Attitude were unable to qualify. Then Mission says, I'm coming back, and right here they are one more time. But the last time they were in Worlds, they were the first team from a major region not to actually make it out of the play-in stage. They got put up against Fnatic in the best of fives after some poor seeding and performance in group play, and all of a sudden, they got 3-0 and eliminated.
And look, that's not something you want on your resume. It's like Team Liquid knowing that they lost the fastest international final. There's good things to put on the resume, and there's bad things to put on the resume. And that's one of them.
You just got to do them like that. And he's not even in this game.
It's perfectly appropriate given the discussion. It's not flame, it's
That's fair.
analysis. Kind of.
Oh, here we go.
Engage going in. Kaiwing gonna find the double mock-up. The Gangplank coming in clutch here. Venus is just gonna get taken down. First blood. Crash is on the way for the follow-up. DNK coming over the wall, trying to mitigate as much as he can. Crash not gonna try to go in on that one, but fantastic use of the GPL. Great communication from the side of HKA.
It's exactly what I said was going to happen in Champ Select. Level 6 come around and you make a play on bottom lane because this duo will be pushing up. And Kaiwing made that play happen. It was very telegraphed. Pops the ultimate straight in the middle of vision, but he says we can make this play happen and there's nowhere you can go. That's a Lux, not a Morgana, so you can't break the initial CC, and there's no way Venus was going to be escaping from that one.
It's well played. Locks up 2 members, makes it easy. Now able to grab the Cloud Drake, seeing the next spawn is going to be Infernal will change, I think, some of the priorities of both teams if they want to force that one. Next. It does respawn, and Mission and Crash now moving together. Of course, will be spotted out.
And now there's a pretty big window where Hong Kong can look to make another play on this bottom side of the map. No flash on Venus. Celebrity lost his as well. And, well, yes, Kaiwing, the primary initiation tool, is not going to have his either. Crash has the ability to come from behind, on this Lee Sin with the kick available. So I would love to see him try and get involved, especially because Celebrity has no mana.
This is way too
Ward hop kick.
aggressive. Here you
No!
go. Kick out. Might still be able to finish it off, though. He has
TP
challenge
behind.
Smite as well as Conqueror proc. Celebrity's still going to die. The Lee Sin is so powerful, and now the Lux will get dropped too. Now locked up under tower, manages to get that, but here comes Hani trying to clean up a play. Body block is there from Kaiwing. Well played by the side of HKA, but Celebrity could not afford to push up that far.
It was almost a disaster there from Crash, but he's able to make it work in the end. And they get even more on top of it than just the 2 kills, because that's also a TP lost from Hani. And you know what? In about a minute here, I think, for Gangplank, 50 seconds away, he's going to have Cannon Barrage up and a teleport, and Hani's going to have no ability to make it into the bottom lane. So Celebrity and Venus, they're pathing back down here, but there's imminent doom on the horizon.
And realistically, just looking at this one, Ender, this has been a very difficult early game for the side of Low-Key. The bot lane 2 times in a row now with this duo that you expect to be very aggressive to kind of sustain pressure against a normally terrifying Zyrocon has not really been able to do so. Has been punished every time they've tried to sustain it.
And what's the idea of Caitlyn Lux? It's about getting turret plates in the early game, poking out your opponents and creating pressure. Right now, they have taken 1 turret plate from Hong Kong, and HKA have picked up 3, on top of all the kills they've gotten to.
And now Lee Sin also has not only the kill, not only the assist, but a 20 CS advantage in the jungle. And if you're an Elise and you're behind in the game, things get very scary very fast. Because we've seen what DNK can do when he's got a ton of AP, when he can start to look to 50% or almost one-shot a lot of the opposition. But if he's behind against tankier champions, like a GP, like a Lissandra, harder champions to lock down, like a Xayah, you might just be irrelevant as we get later in the game.
Yeah, and that's why low-key fans are all going to be looking at Artifact. When is he going to be unlocked on the map to do something? Because right now he's stayed even in mid lane, but haven't seen any, flare around that area of the map. But his life is not going to be easy the later on we get, because he's always going to be looking at, the CC chain of a Lissandra, as well as, the self-peel on both Unified and Mission. It is really, really hard, I think, for Artifact to play in these fights. Look at that. Aftershock. Like, how much fun is he having? Not much.
Not getting much done either, which I think might be more important than the fun aspect. Crash probably just going to try to dash out here.
Everyone throwing out the warning shots.
And so, okay, this reminds me a lot, if you remember 2018 Madrid Summer Final, right? The one game that we saw Schalke win versus Fnatic was when Nukeduck took Lissandra and took Caps out of the game. It wasn't about winning lane. It was about taking a key player on the enemy team, the most key player on the enemy team at the time, completely and totally out of the game. And it feels like HKA have identified a similar win condition and just decided, look, Artifact, we recognize you're probably the strongest individual player. We're not scared about Hani. DNK is great, but we're not worried about him without a strong early game. And if we just make sure your Akali doesn't get anything done early to mid, we can take over this match.
Yeah, and the last time these guys played against each other, remember, it was Artifact on that Tristana with so many kills, really snowballing off these early fights. So the the fact that Hong Kong Attitude have been able to slow down the pace of the game and really only attack the areas of the map where they know they have the strong ability to has been very, very strong for them. Now, for HKA, I want to see another play. They have the Gangplank ult again, crashes on the bottom side of the map, and there's still about 30 seconds left before the flashes are up on both of these two players. So I really like the move from Crash to come in here.
That kick connected. Someone probably would have died. Crash, though, just going to focus on taking down the Vision, and they are going to push in on the bottom side.
And you might say, why throw out the Sonic Wave right there? Why reveal yourself? I think that was a pretty hopeful play, but knowing that Flash was going to be up so soon, they didn't really have time to wait for a dive there. They just wanted to see, could they seize the window and make something happen? They couldn't. Now, the punishment for revealing himself and not making a play happen is now that DNK and Hani are going to be starting up this Rift Tail. And the question is, can a rotation come through fast enough? Which I don't think it can, because even if Unified were to try and run over here, Celebrity has the TP, which he's going to be using, because low-key want to get out of the laning phase now, because it has not been going off for them so far.
Can't just take this one down, use the Rift Herald top lane, try to break open this landing phase, but in the meantime, the consolation they're going to have to give over to the enemy team is the Infernal Drake, priority on that spawn. And it is a 4K deficit just about in this game, 3.5. They need to get gold fast. They need someone on this team who's actually going to be strong that can actually make a difference, because right now they are just steadily falling behind.
This is really not ideal for low-key. Yes, they get the Herald, but it's after turret plates go down, so it's not like they can just funnel a ton of gold onto Celebrity to make up for the missteps inside of the laning phase. And as you mentioned, that's an Infernal on the other side of the map. All these players on the side of HK are going to be so thrilled to get that. And even with the Herald, they're the second team to get the tower, so they don't actually get that bonus on top.
And honestly, just catastrophic early game for the side of low-key. Because the thing is their composition is quite hard to play as you get later.
Oh, absolutely.
Outside of picks, it's all very difficult. Maybe they can hope to get a little bit more of the gold back in their favor as they move in on this second tower, but the GPL is going to mostly stop that in its tracks. Celebrity with a lot of confidence to stay here. However, any team with Lissandra in it can kick off a fight anytime they want.
Yeah, it's super, super easy. The long-range engage, too, without committing with Gangplank as well. I think HKA have a very clear way to play through the rest of this game, and it is just looking for these fights, controlling areas of the map, making sure that side lanes can't really get out of control with, Hani on that Camille, because we do know, we've seen this matchup, that eventually Hani will take over, but the fact that Gangplank is just up 30 CS passively out of the laning phase means that's actually not really happening just yet. It's Eternity Force completed already for 3Z, and Hani is just sitting on, a couple of components.
The additional sustain will be nice, but might not be enough in the 1v1. And as you said, as we get later and later, level 11 Gangplank, level 2 Cannon Barrage, ready to go in, a certain amount of time. I didn't realize it was on cooldown. And for 3Z, very easy for them to continue to control these major objectives. And I think no real chance for low-key to move in here and try to contest Vision around the Baron if HKA get control of this mid lane. So it is kind of now all eyes on Celebrity and Venus to try to hold on to this one.
And similar to what I've said, in past low-key games, is they actually have tools to find picks without committing themselves into the fight. So I think if this team is able to, control certain areas of the map and play off of Lux Bindings and DNK's Cocoons, they do have ability to try and stall out the game and get to a more comfortable position for both Celebrity and Artifact on these carries. But ultimately, whenever the numbers are going to be evenly matched between HKA and low-key, it's always going to go the way of HKA, and that's when it becomes very, very difficult. Now, both teams are splitting the map at the moment. 3Z sticking around, though, and dodge.
And the numbers are not matched.
Look at bot lane, though. They're chasing them down.
One thing that's going to connect, and now Kaiwing, Crash, and Mission set their sights in this tower. A Demolish Proc is going to help, but probably not enough to tear this one down, so just a bit of poke damage traded back. And I want to go back to something that Spawn talked about when we saw this team. The idea of the VCS is a prove-it region. Like, you want to make a mechanical outplay, prove that you can do it, and then we'll respect it. And right now, I feel like the VCS are the team that have to prove it.
Wait, are we just going to keep going?
Yeah, they got to prove something.
Wait, they're... Okay, low-key are recalling right now, but this tower, it's not going to go down fast. There's no AD carry in the area, but it is going down to about half HP now. Actually, I don't think that was worth from HKA. I think what I would have loved to see them do is instead of pushing forward for that inhibitor tower, because let's be real, Gangplank's never going to really threaten that objective. I would have liked to see them move up through that bot side jungle and threaten that mid lane tower, because it was only Celebrity defending against that. I think there was a real opportunity for them to take that, and knocking down that mid lane tower, as we've said so many times before, really enables you to accelerate the pace of the game.
At the same time, low-key overstay, make a mistake on the top side. GP, very easy for him to clear the wave, and they would have gotten the inhibitor. So I agree. That's kind of what I would have preferred too, but I can see the logic. You know, I can see that, hey, if they want to double down, if they want to base race us, we'll take it because they're going to win. Makes sense there for them. And Cannon Barrage is now up and available. And Artifact going to just move on to the top side and collect as much CS as he can. He was kind of our player to watch, a guy to keep our eyes on. He just has been kind of quiet this game.
He's getting items, and that's just been his job, you know? He was in a counter matchup for especially the early laning phase. He's now come out of that. I think he is very good at playing side lanes. That's one thing that Artifact will do a lot, is pick up a lot of CS in his games, whereas Hong Kong Attitude are so focused on being able to group up and find team fights. Sometimes they will drop minions a little bit and not focus on those quite as much. But we've reached the point in the game where Unified is just going to be trying to pick up absolutely everything. You know, park him in the mid lane, allow him to clear away waves, play off of both his Raptor camps and also the enemies. That's one thing you can do as an ADC when your team has a lead. Just walk into the enemy jungle, try to steal those away, and build yourself up a big level lead while denying your opponent.
Of course, coming up next, tiebreaker between Royal Youth and Flamengo. The final spot in their group. Dan1 has already taken first seed. You can find out who will take second later today. After we find out who's going to take first in this group right here.
How long are we going to have to wait, though, Dracos?
That
feels like we're going to wait for a long time.
If I'm honest, I feel like if you're HKA, you're feeling pretty comfy right now.
Absolutely. And you know, we've talked about it. Their team fight is so much easier to execute.
Scouted the bush, but did not see the Elise. But also the wave is just not in a position where Artifact can really get anything done here.
Yeah, even though Artifact does have the level lead, 2v2, definitely going to go the way of Hong Kong Attitude. Black Cleaver already finished for Crash, so he's sitting at a very strong moment in this game. Probably the strongest he's ever going to be in terms of dueling. He's going to be going into the Guardian Angel later on, so it gives him more utility in terms of team fight output and the ability to maybe look for some crazier Lee Sin plays with kickbacks. But for now, if he can find someone, he can fight them and do some pretty serious damage.
Definitely can. For now, doing serious damage, though, to the Ocean Drake. So third Drake going over to the side of HKA. While Ocean, not necessarily ideal, obviously provides an even bigger win con in the Elder if we do want to go late.
So this is the problem I was sort of talking about when both teams committed so hard in taking the tier 2s and even moving on towards the inhibitor towers on opposite sides of the map, is that it's just a wave clear city because the map is so lopsided. You can see Artifact fully push in top lane, 3C fully push in bot lane, and no one can do anything because the mid lane towers are both still up. It's why we've fallen into this complete lull, and because the control over the map has been split so sufficiently, neither team is willing to walk into the area where they don't have vision. So Loki will continue to dominate the top side of the map, Hong Kong Attitude will continue to dominate the bottom side, and until one team wants to cross for the Baron, or if Loki want to cross for the Infernal in 4 minutes, it doesn't really feel like we're going to see too much.
Slow and steady wins the race, is the old adage.
Yes, it does.
Get her done. All right.
We'll see you in 20 minutes.
Nah. I mean, the thing is like, in theory, and bear with me, because at this point, it is purely
Okay,
theory.
talk me through it. Talk me through it, Dracos.
If you hit a Lux Binding, and Caitlyn lands a trap, and then Elise hits Cocoon, you have a lot of CC. That's my theory.
Okay, when was the last time you saw Venus actually throw out a Q? It's been like 10 minutes.
It's very true. And that's not a slight on Venus. I don't know if there have been very many good opportunities, but that's like the most important Lux ability, I would argue. As embarrassing as it is to miss a laser, much more acceptable on a Lux support.
Oh,
and now, that's
there we go.
Difference maker. DNK goes up, goes, what are you doing? Goes down, goes out, and that's the catalyst we were waiting for. 5K gold lead for HKA. Could move in to take the Baron. Could look to finally break the mid lane tower.
Yeah, I mean, we were waiting to see a team make the cross. It was HKA right there.
Big damage. Ulti comes out. Celebrity's dead too. Ask and you shall receive. We wanted to know how long it was going to take. Instantly, the game just exploded.
They're just going to go straight into the Baron now. This team was literally doing nothing, and they're like, okay, I guess we can just outplay them straight up. Now they move on to this objective. DNK going to be dead. Celebrity not going to be able to join the fight. It would at max be a 3v5, but Hong Kong Attitude are so strong right now.
One tower going to go down for the Camille in the meantime. Lux going to hold on to that vision as long as she can. Maybe a hope, a prayer, a Lux ult. Where's it going to go? No.
Nice try.
Not going to happen. Lee Sin going to take that one in the end. I just got to say, some fantastic individual plays from HKA to find those collapses. And low-key, I think just as we were lulled into a false sense of security on the handshake farm game and instantly just blown out.
Well, the weirdest thing, too, is Loki had a lot of vision around that top side of the map, and we haven't seen the replay to see exactly how Crash was able to get in there, but it felt like DNK didn't think Hong Kong Attitude were going to go for that play. And of course, Celebrity TP'd into mid lane just to basically immediately get taken down as well. So we were waiting for so long, and now because of Baron, this game is going to accelerate at an unnatural pace. There's all these outer turrets now for HKA to pick up. They already have a 6k gold lead, so it's just going to balloon to even more.
For low-key now, I think they're into the pick zone. They fish for those to get themselves back into this game. We'll force Mission back, but finally, it's been 23 minutes. Oh, okay. We're going to watch this, but just know that the mid lane tier 1 is dying.
Yep.
And that's the moment you were all waiting for.
All right, he just saw DNK. Kaiwing walked in, placed a ward, and then he one-shot him. It took a little while, because DNK, you know, wanted to wait, but Crash got him in the end, and now all the towers going to be falling down in that outer ring. HKA not going to care about bottom lane at all. They already have all the structures there that they want, so it's just about dominating this top side of the jungle and moving in to be able to quickly flex between both top and mid lane until they can crash the inner ring.
Can they get the minions synced up? Of course, 1 minute 55 seconds, a lot of time left on the Baron. It is just survival for the side of low-key, holding on to as much as they can.
It's one of the best things to do against Caitlyn when you are trying to siege, because of course she can just place all her traps around and make it so you can't walk up to the tower. Is just constantly rotate on her as Crash.
Crash goes in on the Elise. He's now trying to retreat. The ultimate coming off onto the side. They're trying to find the fight. They've jumped back into the laser, but they're getting knocked out. Crash still alive. The GP looking to come through. Celebrity. No, ultimate. Oh, uses his Onyx to cancel it out. HKA gonna break the top lane tier 2. Crash will walk away with his life. After finding the kill, Hani already dead. Huge advantage for the side of HKA.
I love it. Crash just putting the team on his back now, saying, I'm going to make the plays immediately. It's sick coming through from him, going way deep right there. HKA are able to win the fight, get the kills, and also the towers on top.
When push comes to shove, Crash showing up for his team. A lot of people, that's what they wanted to see from the import here. Mission now going to retreat, and fantastic position. 1 more, 2 more fights like that. Base could be broken wide open. They obviously haven't lost an inhibitor yet, but
keep your eyes on Crash. Let's see what he does. That's blind, by the way. Is able to dodge out for just a little bit, but then ward hop into the kick. Q connect, follows it over. That's just clean Lee Sin play right there. Even has the stopwatch to cancel out the ace in the hole. Well played.
Good luck. That's a 10k goal lead, a double Infernal, 7 kills to 0. We're 3 towers and Infernal, or rather a Herald. Perfect game.
Perfect case. Hong Kong Attitude can't close out in the next 5 minutes. They've got a 3rd Infernal that they'll be enjoying picking that up.
Yeah.
It's looking good.
It's believable. It is interesting though if you cast your eyes up to the right hand, upper right corner of the screen, not just the Red Bull logo, but also the 5,700 gold Baron power play. That's a big number. That's the reason that they're now 10k, more than 10k.
Yeah, that's what happens when you get some kills and also 4 towers from a Baron buff. Because you have to remember that the only 2 towers they had taken prior to picking up that buff were the bot lane outer and inner. So they really had not done too much in terms of controlling the actual map. So as soon as they got those 2 picks and moved that in, it became super easy. Just break this game wide open. Now they do have to play, I think, for that Baron to spawn 1 more time as the siege becomes more difficult. But this one's looking like it should be a clean close from them.
Once the setup comes through, Crash looks like he's just permanently fishing for kicks at this point. The binding will land. Not a ton of damage there. Don't think they're going to try to take that fight, instead focusing on wave clear. Ender, I'm going to ask you to tell me a story here. Now, I'm going to hold that thought because they're sieging. You're going to tell me a story in a little bit.
Whoa.
The Gangplank all comes down. Luxalt to just try to clear the way. They're just going to break the base up, but they're just going to walk right in. Crash jumping into the face of the enemy. Meanwhile, Artifact trying to solo out 3Z. This could be the difference maker, but he's getting lower and lower. This is not a favorable fight. Artifact now running for his life, but that's a shutdown. Big outplay.
Artifact was able to kill the barrel right there, which was the difference maker in the 1v1, while Hong Kong Attitude will find the inhibitor in the bottom lane. We had to wait 27 minutes for Artifact to enter the game. He is now here, but it seems like an almost insurmountable task for him to carry.
Very difficult position. And this is the story. Okay, resets come out. Good play from HKA to break the bottom side. Okay, now break this 1v1 down.
Check it out. Okay, so 3Z lands the first barrel combo, applies the passive for a whole lot of damage. And I think it's this barrel that... Oh no, he just straight up misses that. Artifact walked out of the range of that one. And then looked like 3Z wanted to jump on in there and test his luck, but that was not a winning fight for him.
It looks like he flashed outside of the bush and probably did not have sight on the Akali.
Didn't have foresight, that's for sure.
That's fine. the end of the day, still a massive lead. 10K up. And okay, now it's story time. Because we've got 30 seconds to Baron, and that's exactly how long you have to tell me.
Right.
How do low-key get back in this game? It has to be possible, because HKA haven't ended the game yet. So how do they do it?
I mean, it's super up. I think if this Baron goes over, it is not looking good at all for Hong Kong Attitude. So they have to figure out some way to stop this from happening. Probably have to play off a good pick. Could be this.
Could be this one. Crash running for his life, of course, has the GA. They overcommit for this one, though. Could turn against them. Mission and Kai Wing waiting. The Fog of War. Fike try to kick off the flash forward. Elise goes up, has really no way out, though. Comes down in the middle of the team. That is definitely not what they wanted. Baron is now respawned. Jungler is now dead. That's going to be the second Baron for HKA. Maybe this is the time for the Lux Miracle steal, but the rest of the team don't even seem that interested in coming to contest the objective.
This is so massive for Hong Kong Attitude. Just the ability now to be able to get themselves the best seeding possible moving in. Because remember, 2017, this team was embarrassed, honestly, not to be able to make it out of the play-in stage to set themselves up for the best possible success by finishing first. Now with the Baron, with an inhibitor already, the siege to come is the one that will cement them in first seed.
Second Baron, 28 minutes into the game. Crash now barreling down mid lane. Unified and Kai Wing behind him. See the pings coming under the top side of the map. GP's pushing in, ready to crash multiple waves. Not quite simultaneously. But now Loki have grouped up. If you're in the studio, you can hear the players talking very actively on stage. Obviously a moment of big pressure. Calm before the storm.
You can see them playing over the wall here, trying to land a cocoon or a binding. This is the one.
That's taken out. Can they just get the GA to start this off? Has been knocked out, but they've already used the ult in exchange. Rakan buying so much time for the rest of his team to just continue forward, and it's going to turn against them. Crash is still alive, but he's in the base. That's not what they wanted, but he gets one back. Still getting a 1-for-1 when all those resources are burned. In the midst of the team, Lysandra comes out, Celebrity in trouble, now flashes out to safety. Artifact doing what he can to buy more time. Artifact, can he be the difference maker? He's invisible for right now, he dashes through, but it's not enough. 3Z will grab the kill. Baron buff now pushing in. HKA should just end the game.
Hong Kong Attitude have everything they need to close. Only 2 members defending. Mission's gonna recall and look for the teleport on in to make that first minion immune to damage. They're looking for the end right here, Dracos. It all comes down to this push.
Venus caught out and taken down. Celebrity versus the world. I don't think it's gonna be enough. Setting their sights on him instead. Unified sets his eyes on the prize. The TP's now coming in, and the 3rd seed from the LMS will take down the 2nd seed for the VCS to secure first or in this group. And from start to finish, the dominant game coming through for the side of HKA.
Crash stepped up so much in this game.
You said it would happen. To be fair, at the start of the tournament, you told me Crash was insane. That was the game where he showed it.
That was what we were finally waiting for because, the early game was slow from them, but they had the composition to attack bottom lane as soon as 3Z got level 6 on that gangplank and attack it they did. They flipped what should have been a really tough matchup for Unified and Kai Wing, and were able to turn that pressure into a massive, massive win.
Good look overall. And of course, first seed also important. Low-key, of course, still in the tournament, just at that 2nd seed position. We'll have to see what the draw gets them as later in the day. And just a frustrating loss to be certain. We'll have a day to recover before we move into the bracket stage, maybe 2, depending on when they play their games.
And look, Dracos, I can't explain to you enough how important this win was for Hong Kong Attitude to go in the first seed, guarantee themselves a